internship is not for me, but looking to share a little bit of information for those that specifically are coming to Canada with some type of professional background. So oftentimes those that are coming to Canada are coming to Canada with some form of higher education, because that is how the Canadian immigration system is set up for those coming through economic pathways. So currently I am working with the government of Alberta, the Alberta Public Service. Previously I was working with a nonprofit organization, working with those coming to Canada looking for professional opportunities. So those coming with a college or higher level education, and assisting them in finding work in their professional field. So not so much just finding a job, but finding a job that utilizes as much as possible of their previous education and experience. So I'm going to focus on a few things that, in my experience, were some of the challenges that internationally educated professionals ran into. Specifically ones that go a little bit more under the surface and not so much, things like having a proper resume, things like that, that most newcomers can find that information on their own. One of the biggest challenges for a lot of newcomers is the difference between technical skills and soft skills. Technical skills, simplified explanation is the type of skills you learn through your professional education. So you are an engineer, nurse, etc. Those skills that you learn going to school. And soft skills are basically those skills that I like to describe as how you manage yourself, how you manage your interactions with others, and how you manage yourself within the institutions here in Canada to be able to achieve your goals. So within technical skills and soft skills, there's two really big differences that present challenges for newcomers. One is technical skills in the home country of most newcomers, at least for most newcomers coming to Canada, are drastically valued higher than soft skills within their home countries. Roughly, if you want to put percentages to it, 80% emphasis on technical skills, 20% on soft skills, as it relates to your qualifications for a job. So if you have a master's degree in your home country, right away by having that level of technical skill, you are most likely more qualified than an individual with a bachelor's degree. Or if you graduated from a very prestigious university in your home country, that would have significantly more value in your home country than here in Canada. In Canada, soft skills and technical skills are valued 50-50. And another challenge as it relates to soft skills, most often, the higher you rise in an organization, the more emphasis that will be placed on soft skills over technical skills. In your home country, if you were the best engineer or you were the best accountant, you had the best outputs, you got that promotion, or you got that raise, or you had increased opportunity. In Canada, you may have a master's degree, and your manager or director may not even have a bachelor's degree, depending on the structure of that organization, but they may have very high soft skills as it relates to that role. So that's one challenge, is not only are you coming now to a place where there's much more emphasis placed on soft skills, but also soft skills are culturally specific. So you can go from having very high soft skills in your home country to pretty much overnight having very low soft skills by Canadian standards. And I mean, even in your home countries, even here in Canada, there are individuals with low soft skills by Canadian standards and high soft skills by Canadian standards. The problem for newcomers is you are going to now be measured by your Canadian soft skills. And so let's talk about how that looks like here in practice. We heard previous presenters speak about opening a business or working in trades, etc. I'm going to mostly be speaking about going out and applying for jobs in public serving jobs or private sector, corporate, etc. So not so much your own business, but going out and looking for jobs from another employer. And there's kind of, obviously this is very general, 3 different types of jobs. Professional, which oftentimes require high levels of education or at least high levels of technical skills. Support level jobs, which may require a short-term training or some type of technical skills, and then kind of manual labor. And for this definition of manual labor, I'm referring to not something like a trade or something like that, but something where you're just exchanging your labor for income in terms of working for a minimum wage job. It could be something like fast food or entry-level kind of labor, not something like a trade where you need some form of technical skills. Now, the challenge for most newcomers as it relates to technical skills and soft skills is how you secure each of these jobs is very different. And the techniques that you're going to need, especially for a newcomer with higher levels of education, is going to be very different when pursuing those jobs. Now, the hope is, if you're coming with a degree or some type of technical skills, that you're going to be able to utilize those. But oftentimes there are a lot of barriers, some that are completely outside of your control, things like regulatory bodies, things like, I'm sure some individuals have run into the unfun question of you lack Canadian work experience, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But when looking for that professional job, it's going to take time and it's going to take high levels of soft skills. And so if you are approaching applying for that job the way that you did back home, you're probably going to continuously run into brick wall after brick wall. Now, for support level jobs, this is where newcomers may be in Canada for 3 months, 6 months. They're struggling to find jobs in their professional field. They start looking at those jobs that are slightly related to their professional field, but is maybe not utilizing their full professional background or education experience. And if you are applying for that job the way that you would for that professional job, once again, you're going to start running into different brick walls. And then manual labor jobs. If you're struggling to find manual labor jobs, then you're probably just not looking in the right place, because there is lots of opportunity. There's always basically opportunity for manual labor. There's a huge shortage of labor in general. Doesn't matter if you have a high school diploma or a PhD, you can get a job working manual labor, because for them, there's really no barriers to hiring you. There's no recruitment cost, there's very little training cost for that employer. So if you stay for a month, or if you stay for 10 years, it doesn't really matter to them. They'll just hire somebody else behind you. Within a week, they'll have them trained and able to do that job. Now, for a professional level job, the expectation is you to do the job. You don't really need that training. You don't really need to learn. You're able to step pretty much immediately into that job and be able to do it. Now, the challenge is, at least in my experience, a lot of times newcomers can get maybe to the job interview stage of that professional job opportunity based off of their resume or their past accomplishments. They will struggle to secure that job. And that's because the interview in Canada specifically, once again, you're going to be measured 50% on your technical skills and 50% on your soft skills. And that 50% on the soft skills in the interview is oftentimes where newcomers will fail, unfortunately. So we'll talk a little bit about how to overcome that. When newcomers start looking for support jobs and start to even struggle in securing that, It used to happen a lot. An individual would come to me and say, Tyler, I have a master's degree in business administration. I can't get this very, to them, simple job. And what they would often hear or run into is, you are overqualified. And it's something that would be very frustrating to professional newcomers, because in their mind, they're hearing, we're not going to hire you because maybe we feel like you're going to ask too much money or something along those lines, and they feel like that's the reason they're not getting the job. But really what the employer is communicating to you is that they do not feel that you are going to stay in that job. In their mind, what they're thinking is, you're going to stay for 3 to 6 months, and you're going to leave for a professional level job because that's what you're qualified for. And if you're targeting support level jobs, it's going to be very important for you to explain in advance to that employer, we'll talk about ways to do that, why you are applying for that job and not why you are applying for the professional job. Because in their mind, they need to know that they are going to get a reasonable return on investment for their time in hiring you. Because unlike a manual labor job, a support level job is very expensive on the employer to hire. Oftentimes, it's the professional that needs to train that support level job. That's going to be the person that that support level job is reporting to. And it's about a 3 to 6 month time commitment for them to train you and have you in that role. So if they feel like you're just going to leave in 3 to 6 months, they're going to be right back in that hiring and recruitment stage. And so for them, there may be a very valid reason why you're applying for that support level job versus going for a professional level job, but do not assume that the employer is going to know that. And don't assume, for example, that the employer is even aware of the barriers and challenges to why you are not applying for that professional level job. So basically for professional level jobs, if you're running into challenges like you lack Canadian experience, once again, you might be hearing, my international experience is not valid here, but how am I going to get Canadian experience if an employer is not going to hire me? And the employer is not going to hire me if I don't have Canadian experience. But what the employer is trying to convey to you is not that your international experience is not valid, it's that you are not communicating your international experience in the Canadian format. And that's a very easy thing to change if you know how, versus not understanding that your international experience is valid. So we're going to look at some of the soft skills specific to securing professional and support level jobs. Networking. It was discussed already for entrepreneurship and trades, and it's pretty universal here in Canada. Soft skills around networking at a professional level job is crucial. Right now, the last statistic I looked at, 80% of jobs in Canada will never be posted. You'll never find them on Indeed, you'll never find them on whatever the job sites that you're using. You probably won't even find them on the company websites. That's because the majority of openings are hired long before they're ever posted. The only time that you'll find them posted is maybe an organization wants it as a best practice or a best policy to post a job in 2 weeks, hire X amount, or interview X amount of individuals. But even if you see it on there, there's likely somebody already identified it as most likely to get that job. Next is the STAR method of behavioral interviewing. STAR stands for Situation, Task, Actions, Results. We talked about newcomers struggling with soft skills in an interview. Your answers must be in that format. Even if an employer may not be consciously aware. Yeah, so your answer has to be in that format. An employer may not consciously know, I'm looking for the STAR method of behavioral interviewing, but they don't need to. If they did the majority of at least their junior high education in Canada, they just naturally look for that format for an answer. Some large organizations that have large human resources departments, Government of Alberta being one, yeah, they will identify this as the format that we use as a way to let candidates know to prepare. And where newcomers tend to struggle, in my experience, is I've done many mock interviews with professional newcomers. They will focus heavily on the action. I manage a budget of 20 million. I supervised 100 individuals. The actions that they did, not the results. So they focus heavily on their responsibilities, not the results of their actions on that responsibility. And so what ends up happening is, in a job interview, the question will be asked, the newcomer will provide the answer. Oftentimes at the end of that answer, there'll be an awkward pause where the employer is waiting for the rest of the answer. It doesn't come, and so they will state, okay, thank you, move on to the next question, but you've been now docked significant points in that answer because you have not, in their eyes, completed the answer. So the last thing I'll say is get a career coach. There's lots of mentorship programs, professional organizations, whether it's regulatory bodies, professional associations, immigrant servicing agencies, organizations like this. A lot of these things, you can't fix what you don't know. And you can spend hours and hours and hours doing the same thing over and over and over and running into the same brick wall over and over. Or you can spend, an hour or two making the required adaptations that you would need to be successful. It's still both your time that's being utilized. So put those hours into more productive methods to find and secure meaningful employment, because what a struggle that newcomers will run into is, at a certain point, you will begin to lose your technical skills if you are not working in that field for a long period of time. So that you're kind of on a clock a little bit when you arrive in Canada before your technical skills kind of become null and void just because of the changes in each field, and it's different in each professional field as well. So I was basically put together some things that I have noticed in the last 10 years or so of working with newcomers that, once again, are a little bit more under the surface and sometimes aren't easily identifiable for newcomers to work on. And a quick 15-minute presentation. A lot of these subjects, you could do a 2 or 3 hour presentation on each of them, but hopefully you're able to get a few things to follow up on and look into, and worst comes to worst, you can reach out to myself if you have additional questions. Thank you.